What if I told you that everything we thought we knew about evolution and species on Earth was completely wrong? What if there were creatures living right under our noses that science had never documented? Well, buckle up, because the story I'm about to tell you will make you question everything you think you know about the natural world. This isn't some internet hoax or clickbait nonsense. This actually happened in rural Texas just 18 months ago, and the implications are absolutely mind-blowing. Meet Robert Bobby Henderson, a third-generation cattle rancher who owns 1,200 acres of prime grazing land about 40 miles northeast of Austin, near the small town of Elgin. Bobby's been working this same stretch of Texas hill country his entire life, just like his father and grandfather before him. He knows every inch of his property, every creek bed, every cluster of live oak trees, every rocky outcrop. So when something unusual shows up on his land, Bobby notices immediately. It was a scorching hot Tuesday morning in July when Bobby was making his usual rounds, checking water troughs and counting cattle. The temperature was already pushing 95 degrees at 8 a.m., and the cicadas were buzzing so loud you could barely hear yourself think. Bobby was driving his beat-up Ford pickup along the fence line that borders Yegwa Creek when something caught his eye near a cluster of mesquite trees. At first glance, it looked like maybe one of his calves had gotten stuck in the underbrush. But as Bobby got closer, he realized this was definitely not a cow. The shape was all wrong. It was about the size of a large dog, maybe 60 or 70 pounds, but the proportions were unlike anything he'd ever seen. The creature was lying on its side, barely moving, clearly in distress. Bobby's first instinct was that this might be an injured deer, maybe hit by a car, and somehow made it onto his property. But deer don't have fur that thick and shaggy, and deer definitely don't have paws that look almost like hands. Bobby had lived in rural Texas his whole life, had seen every kind of native animal you could imagine: coyotes, bobcats, javelinas, even the occasional mountain lion. This was none of those things. The creature's fur was a deep auburn color with silver streaks, and it was incredibly thick and luxurious looking, almost like a bear's coat, but somehow different. The head was proportioned more like a large cat, with a broad skull and what appeared to be very intelligent eyes. But the limbs, those were the really weird part. They were longer and more flexible than you'd expect. And those paws, they had these elongated digits that really did look almost human-like. Bobby approached slowly, talking in a calm voice the way he'd learned to do with spooked cattle. The creature's eyes followed his movement, and Bobby was struck by how aware and alert they seemed, despite the animal obviously being hurt. There was definitely something wrong with its left hind leg. It was bent at an odd angle, and there was some blood matting the fur. Now, Bobby's not the kind of guy who usually gets sentimental about animals. When you're a rancher, you develop a pretty practical relationship with the animal kingdom. But something about this creature struck him as special. Maybe it was those intelligent eyes, or the way it didn't try to run or show aggression, even though it was clearly frightened and in pain. Instead, it just watched him with what Bobby later described as an almost human-like curiosity. Against his better judgment, Bobby decided to help. He went back to his truck and grabbed a heavy canvas tarp, then very carefully wrapped up the injured creature. It didn't struggle much, which was either a very good sign or a very bad one. Bobby gently loaded it into the bed of his pickup and drove straight to see Dr. Sarah Martinez, the local veterinarian who'd been taking care of Bobby's cattle and horses for the past 15 years. Dr. Martinez runs a practice out of Elgin that mostly deals with large animals, horses, cattle, goats, that sort of thing. But she's also licensed to treat wildlife, and Bobby figured if anyone could help this strange creature, it would be Sarah. When Bobby showed up at her clinic with a mysterious injured animal wrapped in a tarp, Dr. Martinez thought she was ready for anything. She was not ready for what Bobby uncovered. The moment Dr. Martinez saw the creature, she knew they were dealing with something extraordinary. In her 23 years as a veterinarian, she'd treated just about every species native to Central Texas, and several that weren't supposed to be there. But this animal didn't match anything in her extensive mental catalog of North American fauna. The initial examination revealed that the creature was a juvenile, probably only a few months old based on its teeth and bone development. The injured leg was fractured, but not severely, definitely treatable. But the more Dr. Martinez examined the animal, the more puzzled she became. The bone structure was unlike anything she'd studied in veterinary school. The skull shape was feline-like, but with proportions that didn't match any known big cat species. The dentition was omnivorous, with both sharp canines and flat molars designed for grinding plant matter. But the most unusual feature was the creature's hands. And yes, Dr. Martinez quickly realized that calling them paws wasn't really accurate. These were hands, with opposable thumbs and elongated fingers that were clearly designed for grasping and manipulation. The creature could pick up small objects, turn them over, examine them. During the examination, it actually reached out and gently touched Dr. Martinez's stethoscope, seeming fascinated by the metal surface. Dr. Martinez set and splinted the broken leg, which the creature tolerated remarkably well, almost as if it understood that the procedure was helping rather than hurting it. She also took blood samples and tissue samples for analysis, though she had to send them to a lab in San Antonio since her small clinic didn't have the equipment for the kind of genetic testing this situation clearly called for. While they waited for the lab results, Bobby took the creature back to his ranch. He set up a comfortable space in one of his horse stalls, with plenty of soft bedding and a heat lamp for warmth. Dr. Martinez had provided pain medication and antibiotics, and she stopped by daily to check on the patient's progress. That's when things got really interesting. This creature was smart. Not just animal smart, but genuinely intelligent in a way that made both Bobby and Dr. Martinez uncomfortable. It figured out how to open the simple latch on the stall door within hours. It learned to turn the water spigot on and off. When Bobby brought it food, they'd settled on a diet of fruits, vegetables, and small amounts of meat. The creature would arrange the items in neat piles, almost like it was sorting them by type or preference. Within a week, the creature had essentially trained Bobby to understand its needs and wants through a system of gestures and vocalizations. It would point to things it wanted, nod or shake its head in response to Bobby's questions, and even seem to understand basic English commands. Bobby started calling it Buddy because, he said, it felt more like having a very unusual friend than caring for an injured animal. The lab results from San Antonio came back 2 weeks later, and they were completely inconclusive. The genetic markers didn't match any known species in the databases. The blood chemistry was similar to various mammals, but with some unusual variations that the lab technicians couldn't explain. Dr. Martinez made some calls to colleagues at Texas A&M University and the University of Texas, trying to find someone who might be able to provide answers. That's how Dr. Jennifer Walsh got involved. Dr. Walsh is a cryptozoologist and evolutionary biologist at UT Austin, one of the few academics willing to seriously investigate reports of unknown animals. When Dr. Martinez called her about Bobby's mysterious creature, Dr. Walsh's initial reaction was skepticism. She gets calls about mysterious creatures several times a year, and they always turn out to be known animals that people just haven't seen before. But when Dr. Martinez sent her photos and the lab results, Dr. Walsh knew immediately that this was something special. She drove out to Bobby's ranch that same afternoon, bringing along her graduate student Marcus Thompson and enough scientific equipment to conduct a proper field study. The moment Dr. Walsh saw Buddy, the name had stuck by then, she knew they were looking at a species completely unknown to science. Not just a new subspecies or a hybrid, but something that didn't fit anywhere in the established taxonomy of North American mammals. The bone structure, the muscle attachments, the neural development indicated an evolutionary path that no one had ever documented. Over the next month, Dr. Walsh and her team conducted an exhaustive study of Buddy. They took detailed measurements, additional blood and tissue samples, and hours of behavioral observations. Buddy seemed to enjoy the attention and actively participated in many of the tests, almost like it understood that these humans were trying to learn about it. The intelligence tests were particularly remarkable. Buddy scored higher than most primates on problem-solving exercises. It could use tools not just as extensions of its body, but creatively, combining objects in ways that suggested genuine reasoning ability. In one test, Buddy figured out how to stack different-sized boxes to reach a treat that had been hung high up, but it also rotated one of the boxes to create a more stable base, something that suggested not just intelligence, but engineering thinking. Dr. Walsh was documenting what she was convinced would be the zoological discovery of the century. But she also knew that going public too soon could create problems. The academic community can be skeptical of extraordinary claims, and there are established protocols for announcing new species discoveries. More importantly, Bobby's ranch would be overrun with curiosity seekers, media, and potentially people who might want to capture or harm Buddy. They decided to keep the discovery quiet while Dr. Walsh prepared her research for publication in a peer-reviewed journal. But word started to leak out anyway. Marcus Thompson, the graduate student, apparently couldn't resist sharing some photos on social media. Within days, the images had been shared thousands of times, and conspiracy theory websites were buzzing with speculation about everything from alien visitors to secret government experiments. The story hit mainstream media about 6 weeks after Bobby first found Buddy. A local Austin news station picked it up first, then CNN, and suddenly Bobby's quiet ranch was the center of an international media circus. News trucks lined the country road leading to his property. Helicopters circled overhead trying to get aerial footage. Bobby had to hire security guards just to keep trespassers from climbing his fences. The attention brought both opportunities and problems. The Smithsonian Institution offered to purchase Buddy for their collection, which Bobby immediately refused. Several zoos made substantial offers to house and study the creature. Animal rights groups demanded that Buddy be released back into the wild, though nobody could figure out what the wild meant for a creature that didn't seem to belong to any known ecosystem. Meanwhile, Buddy was thriving. The broken leg had healed completely, and it had grown noticeably larger and more robust. It had also become incredibly attached to Bobby, following him around the ranch like a devoted dog. But unlike a dog, Buddy seemed to understand the work Bobby was doing and would actually help out in small ways. Closing gates that had been left open, bringing tools that Bobby had set down and forgotten, even helping to guide cattle by positioning itself at strategic points. Dr. Walsh published her preliminary findings in the Journal of Cryptozoology, and the response from the scientific community was explosive. Some researchers hailed it as the most important biological discovery since the coelacanth. Others demanded more evidence, suggesting that Buddy might be a hybrid of known species or even an elaborate hoax. The debate raged in academic journals and scientific conferences around the world. That's when the federal government got involved. Agents from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service showed up at Bobby's ranch with legal documents declaring Buddy to be a protected species under the Endangered Species Act. They wanted to relocate the creature to a secure facility for further study and protection. Bobby, who had grown incredibly fond of Buddy over the past 4 months, was having none of it. The legal battle lasted for weeks. Bobby hired lawyers, and Dr. Walsh testified on his behalf about Buddy's apparent happiness and health in its current environment. Animal welfare organizations filed briefs supporting both sides of the argument. The case became a national story, with public opinion polls showing Americans almost evenly divided on whether Buddy should stay with Bobby or be moved to a government facility. In the end, a federal judge reached a compromise. Buddy could remain on Bobby's ranch, but under the supervision of a joint team from the Fish and Wildlife Service and the Smithsonian. The ranch would be declared a temporary research station, with Bobby serving as the primary caretaker under the oversight of scientific personnel. This arrangement has been in place now for about 8 months, and it's working better than anyone expected. Buddy seems content with the setup, and having professional researchers on site has led to some incredible discoveries about its capabilities and behavior. They've determined that Buddy's species appears to be semi-aquatic. It's an excellent swimmer and can hold its breath for up to 12 minutes. It's also partially nocturnal, with exceptional night vision that allows it to navigate in complete darkness. But perhaps the most remarkable discovery came just 3 months ago. Dr. Walsh's team was conducting routine behavioral observations when they noticed Buddy arranging small stones in complex patterns near the creek. At first, they thought it was just play behavior. But the patterns were too consistent, too deliberate. They were geometric designs that suggested not just intelligence, but possibly even a form of primitive art or communication. The implications are staggering. If Buddy's species has developed symbolic thinking and artistic expression, it would represent a level of cognitive evolution that parallels early human development. Some researchers are now speculating that Buddy's species might represent an entirely separate evolutionary branch that developed intelligence independently from primates. But here's the really mind-blowing part. Last month, trail cameras set up around the ranch captured images of two other creatures that appear to be the same species as Buddy. They're larger, probably adults, and they seem to be watching the ranch from a distance. Dr. Walsh believes they might be Buddy's parents or other family members, and that there's likely a small population of these creatures living somewhere in the remote areas of central Texas. The discovery has raised as many questions as it's answered. How long has this species been living in Texas? How did they avoid detection for so long? Are there other populations in different parts of the country or world? And most importantly, what does their existence mean for our understanding of evolution and intelligence on Earth? Bobby still wakes up every morning amazed that his simple life as a cattle rancher has been turned upside down by one injured creature he happened to spot near a creek. Buddy, now fully grown and healthy, still follows Bobby around the ranch, still helps with daily chores, and has become not just a scientific marvel, but a beloved member of Bobby's family. The research continues, with new discoveries being made almost weekly. Dr. Walsh and her team have documented over 200 distinct vocalizations that Buddy uses, many of which appear to have specific meanings. They've observed tool use that becomes more sophisticated over time, suggesting that Buddy is actually learning and developing new skills rather than just operating on instinct. The story of Bobby and Buddy has changed how we think about intelligence in the animal kingdom and raised profound questions about what other secrets might be hiding in the remote corners of our planet. It's a reminder that Earth still has surprises for us, still has mysteries waiting to be uncovered by someone curious enough to stop and help a creature in need. So the next time you're out in nature and you see something that doesn't quite fit with what you think you know about the world, take a closer look. You might just discover something that changes everything we thought we knew about life on Earth. If you enjoyed this incredible true story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos exploring the mysteries and marvels of our amazing planet. And let me know in the comments what you think about Bobby's discovery.